Human memory rarely preserves the past with perfect clarity. Over the centuries, events inevitably become entangled with speculation, exaggeration, and legend. Now, imagine a story passed down for a full millennium. What began as fact gradually fades, replaced by myth. This is precisely how the tale of the assassins emerged, a shadowy organization that, over time, grew into one of the most famous symbols of the medieval East, inspiring countless novels, films, and video games. But how much of this image is grounded in reality? Who were the people behind this movement? Did they truly master the art of silent elimination? Or is that simply fiction? And what connection, if any, did they have with the Templars? To uncover the truth, we need to step into the political and religious maze of the medieval Middle East. Let us set the scene in the early 12th century. Picture a young warrior, let's call him Muhammad Salah for simplicity, and a fortress known as Alamut, soon to become his stronghold. This citadel lies roughly 100 kilometers northwest of what is now the capital of Iran. Here was the heart of the group that would later be dubbed the Order of Assassins. The origins of this order are entwined with deep religious disputes within Islam. In a simplified view, the split looked like this: Sunni Muslims acknowledged only the Prophet Muhammad as the ultimate spiritual authority and selected their leaders independently, whereas Shia Muslims revered not only Muhammad but also his cousin Ali, believing that leadership should remain within Ali's lineage. Over time, these divisions spawned numerous sects, and rivalries between them often burned hotter than any enmity toward Christian states. Interestingly, the Assassins, as one of the Shia branches, sometimes formed temporary alliances even with Crusaders if it suited their struggle against Sunni rulers. Does that shatter the first popular myth? Indeed, the Assassins were not a secret cult cloistered in the shadows. They were deeply embedded in the politics and strategies of their era. In reality, what we are looking at is a politically independent state, surviving from the 11th year of the Common Era until the 1256th year. Stretching across vast lands, from the regions of modern-day Tajikistan to the northern reaches of Africa. Our hypothetical Muhammad Salah was merely one of the followers under Hasan ibn Sabbah, the man destined to be remembered as the founder of the assassin state. Hasan was remarkable for his era, a rare combination of intellect and education. After immersing himself in the teachings of the Ismailis, a branch of Shia Islam, he began traveling, preaching, and gathering devoted followers. Naturally, such activity drew attention. A powerful statesman, Nizam al-Mulk, regarded Hasan as a threat and ordered his arrest. Legends claim they were once friends, but modern scholarship dismisses that. What remains indisputable is that Hasan evaded capture, and exploiting political fractures, he converted the garrison of Alamut to his cause, claiming the fortress without laying siege or spilling blood. This was the birth of an independent fortress state of the Assassins. Yet, the stronghold was fragile. No more than 1,000 people lived within Alamut's walls, a minuscule force when compared to the great powers of the region. And it was precisely this vulnerability that drove Hasan toward a strategy of targeted eliminations. His logic was simple. Wars in those days were often battles between armies for the ambitions of a handful of rulers. Remove the commander or sovereign, and the troops, suddenly leaderless, would lose the will to fight. Assassination became a substitute for full-scale warfare, a cheap, efficient instrument of political maneuvering. The remaining challenge was recruiting individuals capable of carrying out such assignments. Enter our fictional Muhammad Salah once again. The term assassin itself has been widely misunderstood. Its enemies, the Sunni factions, spread rumors linking the name to hashish. According to popular legend, Hasan allegedly drugged young recruits with herbal smoke, awakening them in gardens overflowing with wine, music, and women, a miniature paradise. They were then convinced this experience was merely a foretaste of the afterlife reward, contingent on their unquestioning obedience. Modern historians classify such stories as Crusader-era propaganda. It is crucial to understand that tales of hashish, heavenly gardens, or zombie warriors were invented not by the assassins but by their adversaries. The infamous Paradise Chamber? Pure enemy fiction. Sunni rivals were quick to spread stories painting the Shia movement as a cult that supposedly turned its recruits into drug-addled zealots, inducing them into a state of religious trance. Yet, archaeological digs at Alamut reveal no trace of such a so-called paradise simulation. The very term assassin was used by opponents as an insult. Claims linking it to hashish remain highly debated and largely a retroactive interpretation imposed by enemies. In reality, the recruitment system was far more grounded, shaped by social circumstances rather than mystical enchantments. Hasan ibn Sabbah drew followers mostly from the poorest strata of society. Hungry peasants and impoverished city dwellers saw in his leadership a promise of stability, training, and purpose. For many, it was a chance to take a different path. Rather than endless toil in the fields, they could learn trades, martial skills, and even participate in political action. The promise of an afterlife reward was more of an ideological supplement than a coercive tool. There is no documented evidence of the mass initiations involving starvation or abuse that enemy chronicles so eagerly described. The strategy, however, proved remarkably effective. Disciplined, motivated units captured isolated fortresses without engaging in full-scale battles. Slowly, a controlled territory crystallized around Alamut, a political microstate, managed with precision. Within Hasan's inner circle, an elite force began to take shape, the region's first true special operations unit, organized around principles of constant readiness and strict secrecy. Individual skill mattered immensely. Muhammad Salah and his peers spent years mastering blades, hand-to-hand combat, stealth, and disguise. Every movement, every encounter, was practiced to perfection. Could anyone imagine such precision emerging from the humblest fields of Persia? Theatrical skill, social finesse, and the ability to transform one's appearance on the fly became just as vital as mastery of the dagger. Eliminating a target discreetly demanded not only courage, but also the subtle art of approaching a task unseen, acting swiftly, and disappearing without a trace. Each member of the order was assigned a specific territory of responsibility. Our Muhammad Salah, like many others, was linked to the Persian region. His training went beyond combat. He studied the local language, etiquette, hierarchy, clothing styles, and everyday mannerisms. The goal was clear. Should the moment arise, he had to blend seamlessly with the locals, raising no suspicion whatsoever. Can you imagine the patience and precision required for such a task? This preparation explains why the legendary assassination of Nizam al-Mulk, a longtime adversary of Hasan ibn Sabbah, became historic. The official had openly scorned the Ismaili branch, promoted Sufi teachings, and actively tried to eradicate the order's influence. On the 14th of October, in the year 1092, after sunset prayers, a small group approached him, disguised in the robes of Sufi followers. Among them was Muhammad, who delivered a message without words. The assassin's blade found its mark in the vizier's heart. After this event, the order's reputation shifted permanently. It became evident that their power did not rely on the size of an army, but on precision, reach, and skill. Neighboring rulers began sleeping in armor, employing only the most trusted attendants, and living in constant apprehension. Some, preferring not to appear on the next list of targets, voluntarily paid the assassins a security tribute, an early form of political extortion, if you will. Yet here another misconception arises. The assassins were indeed masters of infiltration and exact strikes, but they did not vanish immediately after completing their tasks. During Hasan ibn Sabbah's leadership, his agents eliminated roughly 70 high-profile figures, yet the number of fallen operatives exceeded 100. Why? The answer is simple. Most killers did not even attempt to hide. They accepted the risk as part of their craft. They stayed in place, sometimes announcing loudly who had sent them, and spoke final words on behalf of Alamut. Afterward, they were seized and executed, and they faced this fate with remarkable composure. Could this be why the legend of the elusive assassins, unshaken by the threat of death, grew so powerful? Their willingness to embrace death publicly created an aura of invincibility. They did not vanish because they believed their mission complete, and death itself was merely a ticket to eternal reward. Gradually, fear of the assassins even spread to Europe, where chroniclers described them as the invisible killers of the East. Yet after Hasan ibn Sabbah's death and as the twilight of their fortress state approached, the order increasingly began operating as mercenaries, targeting foes among both Muslims and Christians. In this period, the assassins partially lost their ideological purity, yet their reputation as flawless executors remained intact. What draws a parallel with Sparta, as mentioned earlier? Above all, it was the absolute asceticism. The founder demanded from his followers a life of stark simplicity, rejection of luxury, indulgence, and bodily temptations. One core rule was the suppression of any habit capable of clouding the mind. This completely contradicts the myth of drugged initiations. To give a telling example, Hasan once ordered the execution of his own son simply because he drank wine. Doubts about the so-called hashish rituals dissolve immediately. How could one maintain cold-blooded precision under the influence of narcotics? Assassins were valued above all for their self-control. Their creed was straightforward: live modestly, serve the faith, carry out the command, and receive the promised reward after death. Even mighty empires negotiated with them, a testament to the method's effectiveness. It is crucial to note, Hasan did not orchestrate random killings. Every act was deliberate, every target chosen with care. Can you imagine the discipline required to live under such strict, unyielding rules? The order did not target ordinary people. Their strikes were reserved for those who threatened their state or its allies. Every attack was deliberate, meticulously planned, and usually aimed at rulers, military commanders, religious authorities, or diplomats. Within the order existed a rigid hierarchy, surprisingly preserved even in modern video games. Our Muhammad Salah holds the rank of Rafiq, which signifies that he has already completed a kill and survived, effectively passing the first stage. In some games, the head of the Damascus Bureau is also called a Rafiq, revealing that it is not a name but a title. Ordinary operatives were known as fidai, individuals who dedicated their lives to Allah. Assignments came from the dai, senior mentors who relayed commands from the top and coordinated operations. If Salah succeeded in his missions, he could one day rise to the rank of dai, and perhaps even enter the inner circle of the ruler. At the pinnacle of the order stood an elite chosen few, privy to all secrets and involved in joint decisions with the old man of the mountain himself. At this level, religious fervor almost vanished. Immediate heavenly reward mattered less than calculated strategy, political advantage, and cold logic. The era of the Crusades left little room for naivety. Assassins functioned as an independent force, skillfully navigating between empires. Despite strict asceticism and total renunciation of luxury, training within the order was taken with utmost seriousness. Alamut housed one of the most advanced libraries in the Middle East, while its defensive systems, according to modern scholars, were roughly 200 years ahead of their time. Persian and Seljuk armies attempted the fortress multiple times, yet it remained unreachable thanks to a network of secret passages, ingenious fortifications, and mysterious deaths among enemy commanders. Still, the order's numbers were limited, and pressure from the Sunni world continued to mount. How could such a small group wield so much influence without succumbing to the threats surrounding them? Then an unexpected ally appeared, the Crusaders. If you recall the character of Al-Mu'allim from the first part of the game, his historical counterpart was Rashid ad-Din Sinan. In reality, Christian knights indeed handed over the fortress of Masyaf to the assassins, as a gesture of gratitude for eliminating one of the Sunni rulers who opposed both them and Salah ad-Din. After the death of Hasan ibn Sabbah, the order's influence began to wane. Historical records mention at least 3 attempts to assassinate Saladin, all of which failed. Later, the Christian ruler Conrad of Montferrat broke the alliance, suddenly devastating the lands of the assassins. The outcome was almost inevitable. Not long after, Conrad was discovered dead, a dagger lodged in his chest, a signature mark of the order. Yet this act of vengeance did not fortify the assassins' mountain state. They were forced to wage battles on multiple fronts, simultaneously fulfilling contracts from both Christian and Muslim leaders. Acting on Saladin's command, they eliminated 2 European rulers, Count Raymond II and the Duke of Bavaria, removing obstacles to the Sultan's ambitions. While serving European patrons, they also executed 6 viziers and 3 caliphs. Balancing between the two worlds was no simple feat. Yet the order managed to maintain its precarious position for decades. The end arrived only in 1256, when the Golden Horde swept across their territories. Still, calling this a disgrace would be misleading. After all, the Mongols destroyed everyone without exception, from Baghdad to Kiev. In defense of the last old man of the mountain, it should be noted that he even attempted to organize an assassination against the Khan, but the forces were hopelessly unequal. Modern estimates suggest that the followers of Hasan ibn Sabbah's teachings number roughly 15 million today. And perhaps most astonishingly, a direct descendant of the order's final leader is the Western Ismaili monarch, Aga Khan IV, a citizen of Switzerland. He has met with the Queen of the United Kingdom and even Vladimir Putin, which means that, in a formal sense, the assassin order still exists, albeit in a different shape. The fate of our hypothetical Muhammad Salah was hardly serene. He remained, in essence, a killer. But as we often remind on our channel, eras shape the rules of conduct. In the Middle Ages, political assassinations were not acts of cruelty. They were tools of diplomacy, and the assassins merely perfected this method. Their targeted elimination strategy allowed them to build a singular state that endured for several centuries. That famed phrase, "Nothing is true, everything is permitted," is not ancient wisdom. It was a creation of the writer William Burroughs, an admirer of the assassins, whose work later inspired Kurt Cobain. The romantic aura surrounding the order owes much to travelers like Marco Polo, who invented tales of the Paradise Chamber, mass suicides, and fanatical warriors. Moreover, the assassins had no real connection with the Templars. There was no eternal rivalry. They simply existed in the same era and occasionally ended up on opposite sides of someone's contract. Perhaps an assassin did eliminate a Templar once, but it was not war, it was business. The image of the assassins was deliberately exaggerated, often conflated with other secret societies, like the Indian Thuggees, whose strangler cult deserves its own story. But that, my friends, is a tale for another video. For today, that concludes our journey. Until next time, stay curious.